What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So for today's video, guys, we are going to be making some conference championship predictions with both the AFC and NFC championship games being tomorrow. I'm making this video on a Saturday, so I'm going to be picking who I think will win each matchup and end up in the Super Bowl. And also with both Super Wildcard Weekend and the divisional round, I made a predictions video and a prize picks video. I went with a prize picks parlay that I liked in each matchup. But since there's only 2 games this weekend, 4 teams remaining, of course, I think we have time to combine both of those into one video. So I'm going to first be making my prediction video with who I think will win each game, and then the prize picks parlay that I like for each matchup. So with that being said, guys, as always, comment your predictions on who you think is going to win each game and end up in the Super Bowl. Comment your opinions on your favorite prize picks if you're going to be playing prize picks for this conference championship weekend. So with that being said, guys, let's get into the video. So I'm going to start with the AFC championship game between the Ravens and Chiefs, since that's the first game on Sunday. What a matchup this is going to be between these two teams. The Chiefs, despite their regular season struggles, finding a way to win in Buffalo and getting here. The Ravens with a convincing win over the Texans. Now, both these teams obviously have elite quarterbacks, and they also have elite defenses. The Ravens rank first in a lot of categories. They were first in points allowed in the regular season, allowing the least amount of points. They had the most sacks, tied for first in takeaways, while the Chiefs were second in sacks, second least amount of points allowed. So these are 2 great defenses and 2 great quarterbacks. Now, if either of these 2 defenses have any kind of weakness, it would probably be with their rushing defenses. These 2 defenses ranked kind of in the middle of the pack in rushing yards allowed in the regular season. I think this game will have a little bit of everything. I think both defenses will make some plays. I could see both rushing attacks having some success, and I think both of these spectacular quarterbacks will make some incredible plays despite facing an opposing defense that is elite. This was a tough one to predict, and it's tough to go against the great Patrick Mahomes, especially after he just beat Josh Allen again and won the game in Buffalo. But I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win a close game, potentially a classic, because I think top to bottom, they are the better team. They have been the better team in the regular season. Their defense is incredible. Their offense is incredible. They can beat you in a ton of ways, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. And as Marcus Spears said on ESPN on NFL Live earlier this week, I really liked what he said, how the Ravens almost have to beat themselves in some capacity in order to lose a game. And I just think the Ravens being at home, being the 1 seed, knowing this is a really good opportunity for Lamar Jackson and the team to get to their first Super Bowl in over a decade, I think the Baltimore Ravens win a terrific game, a truly classic contest in my opinion. I'm going to go with the Ravens to win 27-24. So now we move on to the NFC championship game between the 49ers and the Lions. So the 49ers come into this game after winning a close game against the Packers, while the Lions won a close one against the Buccaneers. Now, both these teams have a ton of offensive potential. Both have really good offensive lines. Both pass the ball really well, obviously with 2 really good quarterbacks in Brock Purdy and Jared Goff. Both these teams have really good skill position players on offense, and neither of these pass defenses are great. The 49ers, this is one of their rare not strong suits. I would say, I don't even want to say it's a weakness, because they ranked 14th in passing yards allowed in the regular season. Not bad, but it's better than it's worse than their rushing defense and other categories on defense. Meanwhile, the Lions actually have a bad passing defense. As most of us know, they ranked 27th in the regular season in total passing yards allowed, but Baker Mayfield threw for well over 300 yards against them last round. Matthew Stafford threw for well over 300 yards against them in the Super Wildcard game or Super Wildcard Weekend. I also think this will be a close game. I think this could be high scoring with neither of the 2 passing defenses being elite. I think Brock Purdy and Jared Goff will play really well. I think both of the rushing attacks will have their moments as well, with Christian McCaffrey on one side and the combination of Jahmyr Gibbs, the electrifying Jahmyr Gibbs, and David Montgomery on the other side. I think both defenses will make plays, even though the Lions don't have a great pass rush and don't bring as much pressure as the 49ers front line. I think that they can get maybe a takeaway, because they do rank in the top half of the league in takeaways. So I think we could see a little bit of everything. I see a high scoring game. I see a close one. It's going to go down to the wire, but you know what? I'm going to go with the upset in this one. I think the Detroit Lions win this game because I think they will make sure to try to get off to a really good start, being on the road, being +7 underdogs, in Santa Clara. So I think Jared Goff will have a great game. Jahmyr Gibbs will have a great game. I think the Lions' offensive line, which you could argue is right up there with the best of them in the league, I think their offensive line will make the difference, and they're going to draw up a lot of plays, I feel like, outside the tackles, which has worked really well for them in the first 2 rounds. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs break off some really good runs on the outside. So I think the Lions' momentum for the city of Detroit to get to their first Super Bowl in franchise history, I think the magic continues for the Lions. I believe in what the Lions have been doing. They have some magic behind them. I think they go and win this game against the 49ers, who have not looked quite as great the last handful of weeks, or last 3-ish weeks against the Ravens. They didn't look as great against the Packers as they did earlier in the season. So I'm going to go with the Lions to pull off the upset here. I had the favorite winning in the AFC. I'm going to go with the underdog to win in the NFC. Overall, I think all 4 quarterbacks will play well tomorrow, and I think we're going to have 2 terrific games. But ultimately, my Super Bowl matchup is going to be Ravens and Lions. I think the Ravens beat the Chiefs and the Lions beat the 49ers. So that is my Super Bowl prediction. All right, guys, so now we're going to move on to our prize picks. So I already did a parlay for each matchup. So this is what I like in each game. Starting with the Ravens and Chiefs, I'm going with Lamar Jackson to go over 283.5 passing plus rushing yards. He got this in his last 2 regular season games that he started, but against the Texans, because the game got out of hand with the Ravens dominating the second half, he didn't go over this. But I think against the Chiefs, he's going to need a terrific effort to win. So I think with his rushing and passing combined, he will be able to go over this. He's going to need an amazing effort to beat the Chiefs, obviously. Even though the Chiefs have an elite defense, I think Lamar Jackson will make plays and have a really good game overall. I like Isaiah Pacheco to go over 84.5 scrimmage yards, or rushing plus receiving yards, because he's playing great. He's been terrific recently. The first 2 playoff games, he went over this. And I went with rushing plus receiving yards instead of just rushing yards, because you never know with the game script. The Chiefs could be playing from behind a little bit. Maybe he gets some receptions, but regardless, he's been running so well. He's been playing so well. He's gone over this, I think, in 4 of his last 5 games. I like him to go over once again against a Ravens rush defense that, like I mentioned earlier, isn't as elite as some of their other defensive stats. So I like that for Isaiah Pacheco. From one Isaiah to another, I like Isaiah Likely to have more than 21.5 receiving yards. He went over this his last 5 games, but with the return of Mark Andrews, it makes sense that it's lower. I was still surprised it was this low. I still think Isaiah Likely will be involved, so I like him to go more than 21.5 receiving yards like he's done the last handful of games. And Isaiah Likely is a big play tight end, so he could get this on 1 catch, and I think he likely will. So that is my parlay for the first game. Oh yeah, and they have this cool special on Prizepicks right now where you can go over Christian McCaffrey half a rushing yard, which is guaranteed, obviously. So if you want to throw this to any of your parlays that you would do for this weekend on Prizepicks, do it, because he's obviously going to get at least 1 rushing yard. So it's a free leg to add a bigger total to win, obviously. So I would definitely go with that. So that's just kind of the default that I'm throwing into each of my parlays. And in the 49ers-Lions game, I'm once again going to go with Jared Goff to go over his passing yards. Last 2 weeks, I did that. He got the over. I think in a game where he's going to need to play well against the 49ers, obviously, the prop's lower against a better defense, obviously, but I still think Jared Goff will be able to get at least 258 passing yards. And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown will go over 85.5 receiving yards. He did in 4 of his last 5 games, with the exception of last game against the Buccaneers, which means he's probably due for another 100-yard performance, because that's kind of what he's been averaging most of the season. I think he averaged over 100 yards receiving per game in the regular season. So I like Amon-Ra to go over 85.5, get back into the over column after not getting it last game for the first time in, I think, 4 games. So Amon-Ra goes over. Brandon Ayuk is another receiver I think is due for a bounce back. His last 2 weeks, he went under. He actually didn't even top 40 receiving yards his last 2 weeks. I just don't think Brandon Ayuk is going to go under 3 games in a row. And I think against the Lions secondary, he'll do just fine. I have him going over 76.5 receiving yards. And I threw in the Christian McCaffrey more than a half rushing yard parlay. Like I said, it's just kind of a free leg to win. But that also meant that I couldn't bet on Christian McCaffrey for another prop, because you can only have 1 player per parlay. You can't have the same player with 2 different props in a parlay on Prizepicks. But overall, that's the parlay I like for each game. Those were my predictions overall, guys. Thank you so much for watching as always. Comment your opinions on your predictions for each game, who you like on Prizepicks. If you're playing Prizepicks, definitely make sure to let me know in the comments your opinions. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you love football and you haven't done so already. Consider doing it. Why not? This channel might be for you. Thank you so much again, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.